What's up?
What's up?
Welcome to another episode in our series of films that insult the nation of Albania.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back, baby.
We're back where we've done great work for Eastern Europe.
Honestly, yes, we have.
Hostile, Behind Enemy Lines.
That's right.
We are the predominant
Taken, putting it on the map.
Exactly, Eastern European podcast
Mm-hmm.
in the world.
That's right.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
Soviet, post-Soviet bloc folks.
Send us a gift hamper, Albania. Just not flight tickets, though, all right? Let's not get carried away.
Full of bullets from China.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I'm John.
I'm pretty.
Hell yeah. Today,
Yeah.
in celebration of a film that is just going to pass in and out of obscurity, called
That is true.
Joker 2,
Mm-hmm.
Folie Deux,
Mm-hmm.
Folie 2, starring Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
We are doing a film by Todd Phillips, written by Stephen Chin, Todd Phillips, and Jason Smilovich, who you might recognize as the writer of Lucky Numbers 11.
Oh, shit.
War Dogs.
War Dogs, baby.
Now, this movie, we'll get into it. It's all right. But the real story is dope.
Why
I think it's awesome.
does everyone love to hate on Jonah Hill?
I don't think they do. I think Jonah Hill is widely seen as the best part of this film, which he is.
Because also, there's only two parts to the film if you think about it.
Well, the thing too is like it won't surprise you to know that the character that Anna de Armas plays is fictitious. Maybe not. Like I'm not saying that David Packhouse, who is the character that Miles Teller plays, doesn't have a partner of some sort, but her character in the original adaptation of the story in Rolling Stone does not figure into anything whatsoever. Basically.
Well, otherwise it would just be dudes in this film.
Well, they
need something for the ladies.
I believe the original story was called Dudes and the Guns.
Really?
I think so. I read it yesterday, and it is great. Everyone
really
should go and read that story. It is awesome. In my own weird way, I find it very awesome. Maybe it's not the most entertaining thing, but it's that thing where it's like, yeah, international intrigue and Excel spreadsheets and fucking law and flying to Albania and blah, blah, blah. It's great. But before we get into all that, we're talking about War Dogs. What do you think of Joker? Were you a fan of Joker?
No.
This was pre-us.
Sorry, but no.
That's okay. Lots of people weren't.
Yeah, it's not for me.
No. You're a serious person. You're a very serious person.
You know me to never joke, not once.
No jokes or japes whatsoever.
Not to me.
Zero japes.
But I don't know. I think I went in expecting little
to
more
laugh.
some jokes. No, you know what? I went in expecting a little more weirdness, a little more like. I was actually surprised at how not slow and kind of strange fucking, you know how Joaquin Phoenix gets.
Do I?
It wasn't all the way there. But I feel like they had to rein him back a little to be like, just do what Joker would do. And he resigned into the idea.
Yeah, like I think it delivered on what I thought it would. But like I have to say I kind of like that movie. Over the years I've kind of gone up and down on it. I really liked it when it came out. Now I will say I was certainly like hearing people such as yourself or friends or other podcasters or people like bring up valid and interesting criticism about that film. I was like, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from.
Because it's not as bad as people say it is, but it's also not as good as the crazy fans claim it to be.
It's not like mind blowing.
No.
There's some great stuff in it, and there's really like. There's some incredible aspects to it. Like I think the score is phenomenal. I think Hildur Gudnadottir's score is like really special. I think I've said before, I've never been a big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. Not that I think he's objectively a very good actor, but I've never been someone who's like, gotta go cop the next Joaquin film. Like I really don't it doesn't excite me in any way, really. But over the years, I'm kind of like, I think I've tipped into liking that film. You just did the Joaquin Phoenix thumbs up, thumbs down, and I think I tipped into thumbs up with that movie.
Yeah.
After being kind of from good to not good to mid to now, I'm kind of like, no, I think overall that movie has a lot of redeeming qualities to it.
With any superhero film, DC or Marvel, the one thing I want to walk away with is like some kind of rewatchability. If not immediately in the year, maybe down the line, maybe a few years later. Like I want the ability for these films to like stay in my memory enough, even if one or two scenes are compelling, to go back to it.
Yeah.
With Joker, I never feel like, I'm just gonna throw on Joker and casually watch it. It's just it's
pretty
impossible.
heavy. It's pretty heavy
to do it.
It's also like,
but not just because of the themes. Because Batman, you could.
Yeah, but the thing too is that like it's also Joker is so self-serious, and it's so like, which is so funny because Todd Phillips, who I'm gonna say right now, like Todd Phillips is like the Scott Cooper of comedy. Like he's a funny guy, but he made this very self-serious film that's like, I think you could say it's like darkly comedic, but I find it to be, I actually am
it's
like,
awkward.
Well, maybe if you can tell me it's darkly comedic, but I think the movie takes itself very seriously. And I think that's what puts people off.
Totally.
Like yourself, probably, right?
Where's the comedy?
Yeah, it's called Joker.
Yeah.
I mean,
not a one joke.
What are they doing? Why is he crawling in the fridge? That's not funny.
Come on.
God. Yeah.
When you get fired for not being funny enough, I get that as being like your origin story. I get it.
Yeah.
I've been there.
You've been fired from corporate America for just not being a clown. Yeah.
Every morning they're like, guys, it's time for the team to do a stand up, and I'm like, I got a tight 5, and they're like, you have to.
Everyone,
go away.
for the stand up meeting today, we're actually going to do a tight 5. So if you could please gather around in your little.
I showed up with my
your
japes.
dumb little Scrum agile meeting and do tight 5 minutes on your work. That would be great. Please keep the jokes relevant to the company.
Worst.
But in between Mr. Joker himself, Todd Phillips, who made a bunch of goofy films. Road Trip.
No.
Great movie. Great, unequivocally great movie.
That's him.
Well, this is post his documentary work. He did some documentaries, I believe, before this. One, I think, on Gigi Allen was his first film.
Oh, shit.
Road Trip, Old School, Starsky and Hutch, the remake, which is a tragically forgotten film starring Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller, and Snoop Dogg.
That's right. I remember Snoop Dogg in that film.
Classic movie. School for Scoundrels.
Okay.
Probably his most critically derided film that stars Billy Bob Thornton and the guy from Napoleon Dynamite.
Wait, how do you fuck up? Damn. Okay.
Well, I could think of the ways. Hangovers 1 and 2, Due Date, Hangover 3, and War Dogs. War Dogs being probably his least funny film, bridging the gap between comedy and drama.
Right.
In ways that I think fail in this film.
Yeah, I don't even think it intends to be funny.
I think there's some parts that intend to be funny, but
it's like secondhand, like because of like tension or
sorta
chaos, or like the humor is not the core of it. It's all this other shit that it's like sitting in an uncomfortable room.
The core of it is the disturbing amorality of the characters in a way. Except, I mean, not Miles Teller, but like the Jonah Hill's character. I think this movie, it's weird. I like this movie. I don't think it's bad. I think some parts of it are quite good. The weird thing about it is that like 45 minutes into it forgets that it's a comedy. The last hour or so is like, oh wait, were we gonna make people laugh? It's like, no, we don't have. We can just fuck that off. Yeah.
I didn't even think it was. I think of this movie in the same vein as like Lord of War or. This is high praise, but like Big Short, it's not there.
But Big Short is way funnier, though.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it like intentionally takes out moments to be funny. Big Short in itself is not a funny movie. it gives like funny little montages and like little dialogues to like Ryan Gosling when he's like looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall. All that shit is very intentional.
Yeah.
Lord of War, not a funny film at all.
No.
But because of certain characters like a Jared Leto or a Nicolas Cage,
but
you can't help but be uncomfortable in their presence.
You do know why that's funny though, is because he's got the dog in him. He's got that dog in him, and so that is what makes it funny. Look,
it's what's better is that he's got a poster in the kitchen that says
"Woof woof."
I got the fucking
yeah.
No, man.
No, Big Short is like you doing your tight five at work as a stand-up routine and then finishing it off by punching your manager right in the dick. Like that's what that movie is kind of like. The purpose of it. It's like you distract a lot of the seriousness with this comedy.
True.
And then the last 10 minutes are just like ain't shit fucked. This movie this movie I think is an incredibly effective ending.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. And I think it's like I think Bradley Cooper is kind of wonderful in it, despite my reservations about Bradley Cooper as a performer. No offense to Bradley. I know he's a big fan. I love that kind of seriousness to the ending. Yeah. But I have to say that, like, again, this movie was also like the trailers and the advertisements for it was definitely set up to be more comedic than it is,
because they wanted to stay in the same vein as
it's
Hangovers.
It's like what do we do with the guy who directed Road Trip making a movie that's not actually very funny? And to be fair to the people who cut the trailers, it's not like they've seen the full film.
They don't have,
I think, right?
The same.
But you know, it's like how do you market that the auteur, dare I say, of the Hangover films?
But this is a true story.
A very true story.
Which, like the Hangovers and
is
Road
very
Trips and
true
all,
as well.
is true to my heart.
It's true. The Hangover actually happened.
Yeah,
3
Hangover
times.
fully happened on the roof of
that is a
Vegas.
documentary. Yes.
For the contents of a true story such as this one in War Dogs, you can't dumb it down or make it any more serious than it already is, because at the heart of it, it's just two fucking right out of college kids.
Yeah.
Who find a way to scam the United States
taxpayers
defense.
You could make this film a lot less exciting because, like, you don't want to, like, if you're telling someone what, you're like, oh, you should watch War Dogs. Like, what's it about? It's like, it's about the U.S. Army procurement process. Like,
that's not what you want to lead with, right?
But the thing is like, that's what's actually interesting about this movie.
Right.
The real story of these two guys, it's not boring, but it is very like workaday. The part, for example, where they drive the Berettas from Jordan to Iraq, which is like one of the most exciting scenes in the film, did not happen. That's fabricated. But that's fine. It's actually taken from the experiences of Stephen Chin, who wrote the screenplay. Stephen Chin, he was a producer. He wanted to be a writer. And at some point in the early 2000s, during the Iraq War, he wanted to write a screenplay about these two American guys who went to Iraq and they wanted to start a radio station. And he was like, I really want their rights, but I can't get them. I can't talk to them. I don't know how to contact them to ask them.
Shit.
And he was worried that some other fucking studio or someone with more power was going to come in and be like, take their life rights and take it away from him. Someone at his job, who I believe was his co-worker and future wife, said, why don't you just go there to Iraq, right? It's very fascinating. And he was like, okay. And I think at the time he worked for HBO, and she gave him like a slip of paper that was like, Home Box Office Entertainment is like sending this man, Stephen Chin, to this area to find these two men to develop and research for a project that we're looking at HBO. And it was like a little piece of paper that he could show to the people, whoever he needed to in Iraq, to be like, I'm not a combatant, I'm not this. And so he drove across the Triangle of Death and shit or whatever and found these two guys. And then much later, Todd Phillips gets the rights to this Rolling Stone article, and he's like, oh, you know who should write it? Stephen Chin, this guy who I know. I guess he knows. And he's like, he talks to Stephen Chin. He's like, hey, do you want to write this? Stephen Chin's like, yeah, you know, I've been to Iraq, right?
Fuck.
Yeah.
And
it's a really, really wild story.
He squeezed in his little life story in there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Which is like, it's cool, right? Like I believe, if I remember correctly from the real story, the Beretta story was just like, they got fucked.
Yeah.
Berettas never made it.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Army was like, fuck you guys. That's really shitty.
Oh, for sure. There's no coming back from that.
Well, there is actually.
But for them,
do
for
you
scrappy little
Do you want me
youngins.
to go over the true story?
Tell me the true story.
It's very, I will say, we'll go over the plot briefly, but the true story is more interesting. And frankly, the movie succeeds in giving you the broad strokes of the true story. And that's what, but I mean, seriously, I will link to the Rolling Stone article. I really found it quite fascinating.
Yeah.
If you liked Lord of War, you will like this. This is
if
good.
you like war and dogs, this shit's gonna blow your
And
mind.
this movie's got two guys who got that dog in them.
It got that dog in them.
Woof, woof.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, so David Pacos and Ephraim Diveroli were two friends from high school, basically. And much like in the film, we might as well talk about the plot while we're at it, too.
Yeah.
Much like in the film, they depict he was trying to sell these sheets, and then he meets up with his friend, and his friend is like, I'm making a bunch of money being a gun runner. The thing they don't really get at in the movie that was the true story was it was a family business. As he said, his uncle fucked him out of money. Yeah. That never came up in the article, but this guy, Ephraim Diveroli, was like, no, I want to be a gun runner for life. Like, this is the specific thing I want to do. I love making money, but I specifically want to be a gun runner.
I want to make money through guns.
Yeah, he as he says in the film, he has a license to fire many different types of weapons. So he has a deep love of weaponry. They weren't backed by Kevin Pollak's character. They were backed by a guy who actually I think had a background in weapons. This like Mormon businessman from Utah. So he had like a business background. He financially backed them at first. Basically, he would do what they did in the film was that he could identify these small things to like bid on contracts to supply the army or the Pentagon with weaponry. But Ephraim's big thing was he would often undercut like the deal, and he would often renegotiate it and be like, hey, there's an example where there was a contract for X number of Herstal machine guns from Belgium, which are a high-end machine gun, apparently. And he was like, what if I got these other cheaper ones from Korea? And the Pentagon was typically sometimes like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. One of the big themes that they get at in the story is the fact that what's so interesting and upsetting about the story in a real-life context is that Bush and Afghanistan it's not going well for the Bush administration in Afghanistan. Yeah. They want to outfit the Afghan army. Yes. And the U.S. is doing this at other places around the world. They're helping supply other armies with supplies. They're contractors. They're defense contractors, right? The U.S. military is the most technically advanced military force to ever live. Yeah. And yet they don't actually outfit the Afghan National Army with anything useful. They basically give them the shittiest pieces of shit they could find, which is how Ephraim weasels his way into the big deal that comes up later. Right. What's so fascinating about it is that they're trying to put a good face on this terrible war, but they don't really give a shit about the actual Afghanis. That's what's so interesting and I think so harrowing about the story is that it's just kind of like, I don't know, just give them a bunch of piece of shit rounds. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And you will see that there's a big difference between what happened in real life with the Chinese ammunition and what happens in this movie. And we'll get to it. Yeah. So, but Ephraim's big thing was that he's a small business. He has backing and he could undercut firms like Lockheed and BAE and Northrop Grumman by just like shaving off pennies per unit on everything. Wow. And then the U.S. would be like, oh, well, you're the cheaper deal, so we'll go with you. Even though he's like this one dude, and then later David joins him, this two guys. Yeah. And the funny and other weird, ironic thing about the Bush administration, they had this initiative with defense spending where they were like, hey, some of this money should go to support small businesses, not just huge businesses like Lockheed. So a portion of the Pentagon's defense contract spending budget should go to much smaller companies. And they were like two of them. At max, there was 5 people, I think, who worked for AEY. Wow. And
Like in real life.
Yeah, and the Pentagon was like, man, we're doing great. We're spending less money and we're fulfilling our quota for a small
the little
business.
guy.
Yeah, it's
Damn.
a very funny, like, just little aspect to it.
In the film, there's a part where Jonah Hill and Miles Teller's character come in and they're like, here's our bid. And the U.S. government's like, great, obviously we select you because you came in $53 million less than the last guy. And Jonah Hill gets really angry.
Yes.
Why? Because he's going to get a bunch of money anyway.
Right, but I can explain what happened in reality there. The fact is that, like, one of the devils of the story is the fact that Diveroli is quite greedy.
Yeah.
He really, like, he does try to fuck Packhouse out of money. He tries to fuck Heinrich Thomet, who Bradley Cooper's character is based on, out of money. And he constantly tries to undercut the deal so that he can make more. Jonah Hill's depiction of him in the film is a very filmic character trait that you can... I completely assume that the real Ephraim Diveroli is a much more complex character, but they do nail in this Rolling Stone article that's like, this guy wanted to make more money often. Yeah. And the profit originally for the Afghan deal for the company was that they were going to make $30 million off a $300 million contract. And eventually, through all of their cost cutting, their profit margin went up to $100 million from the contract. But that's what fucked them over in the end too, right? Because they tried to cut out Heinrich Thomet out of it, but Heinrich Thomet was in deep with the Albanian government. And the Albanian government was like, no, this guy stays everywhere because he's our guy. He's very helpful to us.
Wow.
And they couldn't cut him out of the deal. That doesn't so much figure into their downfall as much as it does in the film. Their downfall is pretty like run of the mill, basically.
Yeah.
So as I said, the Beretta deal, for example, one of the other things you have to note is that they default on the Beretta deal. That's one of 7 times they did not deliver to the U.S. Army. And they were actually given a grade of unsatisfactory, which means they should have been blacklisted long before they ever could bid on the Afghan deal.
So several times the government's been like, yeah, we can't be associated with these fucking small-timey
several times
scammers.
They just failed to deliver on their deals. They were making money, and they were also, I don't think it's a coincidence to say that they were also smoking a ton of pot. So, like...
I mean, as shown by both of them driving Porsches through the fucking highway. Or
that was like more film stuff. But like they were, it is stressed in the article that these guys were like hard partiers. They were like 25. And they were just like making quite a bit of money and just doing drugs and fucking unwinding and stuff. But they also, they did default on at least 7 deals. The U.S. Army. They meet Thomet, and Thomet acts as like a middleman. Thomet, much like Bradley Cooper's character, he is on a watch list because he smuggled illegal arms out of Zimbabwe, I believe.
Oh, shit.
So he can't directly deal with any American government firms or something like that.
Right.
He has a company in Cyprus, but he can get all this other shit. Like he says, he's like, I can get to Albania, I can get here, blah, 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 blah. I can do all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how he functions. The contract itself, now this is the stuff that just gives me such a boner. Like, this is the Big Short stuff that I love to talk about. But dear listeners, if you don't care, sorry, because I don't care. I think it's great. So this is where the problem with the procurement process comes in. The contract itself was something that the article called a pseudo case, in that the only place you could find this contract for the Afghan deal was on this website that they go over in the film, right? It's called like fedbiz.gov or some shit. It's the single place you can ever find out that the government was like, we need to outfit the Afghan National Army for decades.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it's called a pseudo case is because for that level of spending, otherwise they would have had to ask Congress to approve it. But the Bush administration was like,
business.
Well, Congress kind of knows how bad Afghanistan is going. So we want to get this through without having any debate, without having it get shot down, without having it changed in any way. This is a huge contract. So they put it, and it's just on this site. And they basically, Diveroli, by chance, comes across it like 5 minutes after it's posted.
Yeah.
And he's like, holy shit, this is like a huge deal, right? The other things to note about the contract. The dollar amount was open. They didn't say like
No budget.
this is like they're like, what do you think it'll cost to do this?
Holy
to
shit.
These huge firms plus AEY plus all these others. Like, you name the price that you can get this done for. We'll figure it out, right? Which is very interesting. The other thing that's very important to note is that they needed the 100 million whatever rounds of AK-47 ammunition, and they said they must be functional with no other qualification at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing else stop. It doesn't matter where they're from, what their provenance is.
Totally.
Anything like that.
It's just got to work.
It just got to work. However, the Chinese embargo on arms after Tiananmen Square, that is true. That's correct. In the film, that becomes a much bigger problem than it does in real life. So Diveroli sees it. He puts in 298 million as kind of a guess, and then just like sends it off and prays.
Yeah.
And then they call him. They're like, "Hey, congrats! You got all. Let's do it.
You did the good bid.
Yeah."
Which
is crazy because like there was still only 2 of them working at this company.
That's
at
wild.
the time. Yeah.
That's wild.
When the Pentagon awards the contract, they actually never vetted AEY properly, and AEY's unsatisfactory rating, which would have disqualified them completely from doing the contract, was changed to like, great.
Even the vetting stuff though, they in the movie Jonah Hill does like fake a bunch of tax records, and
yes,
maybe in real life these upstanding gentlemen may have done something similar to it, where they're like, hey, otherwise we're good character all around, give or take 6 or 7 deals.
That's not clear in the Rolling Stone article whether that actually happened, because I believe when the Rolling Stone article was written, they had been sentenced. And so the story was kind of complete, but they never went into any of that like faking business, like fraud, basically. They never straight up said like detailed what the fraud was.
Yeah.
There was lots of fraud going on.
71 counts, baby.
Oh God, we got to get to the Chinese ammo part though, because that they did go down for the Chinese ammo, but not quite in the way you think.
No, it just comes down to public relations at the end of it and keeping up your side of the bargain. In the film, at least.
In the film, right? But like the Chinese ammo part was what that is like the crux of the film is like, you can't you cannot use this ammo.
Yeah.
What if we, fucking pretend? But the film simplifies it in lots of ways. Pacquiao's, they get the contract, they're awarded the contract. He wants to find a single supplier for all this stuff, much like they do in the film. This is when they encounter Bradley Cooper. But previously they'd already had dealings with Heinrich Thommet. For a minute there, he's kind of like not involved with them. So Pacquiao's, I just found this interesting as a side story. He goes to an arms, fucking what's it called? Like a trade show.
Oh yeah.
He goes to like an arms trade show in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And he meets with Rosoboron Exports. They do 90% of the arms dealing for Russia.
Oh shit.
And Russia, he meets with this like Russian general who's like, hey, like we would love to deal with you, but America's all upset that we sold nuclear material to Iran, and so we can't.
What's the deal?
Yeah. But he was like, the thing that they stress a lot is that in the world of arms dealing, like we've learned from the great film Lord of War, rules are kind of just obstacles you have to get around.
That's right.
He tries to get around it with Russia. The Russian general like fucks with him by being like, yeah, we can do it. And then when they land a plane in Kyrgyzstan, it gets seized by Russia, and they just like are like, I don't know. And
sorry,
then like
it's ours now.
Some minister from the U.S. has to go negotiate, and Pacquiao's is like, there's all these other like kind of worldly socio-political things that I don't understand, and I'm like in the middle of, and I don't know how to deal with them. So the Russians basically fuck with them, but they never do it.
And they get a bunch of free guns and ammo and shit out of it.
I don't know what happened in the end. They do go to Albania, a country with so many armaments that I can't believe they didn't say this in the film, but apparently the prime minister of Albania flew to Iraq personally to visit David Petraeus and offer him to donate 1 million rounds of ammunition because he had so much. So, as they say in the movie, it's full of bunkers, full of old Cold War ammunition and stuff like that, right? They get all the ammo, like they said. The ammo is Chinese. They do repackage it. There's actually a third person involved who's not depicted in the film.
Oh, really?
Who's part of the company.
Oh.
They do repackage it, and the third guy basically like negotiates. He negotiates directly with the army to be like, it's too heavy. Do you think we could put it in plastic bags in
Ziploc
boxes?
bags?
And they said yes. And they received a shit ton of the ammo, and they were like, this is great. And
yeah, because they do the first like 50 million rounds in Ziploc bags and send it off in a truck.
But in real life, every round of ammunition is stamped with their place of origin.
I would think so.
So
right?
they don't say that in the film.
Ah.
The U.S. Army
look the other way.
accepted millions of rounds of Chinese ammunition, knowing it was Chinese, and being like
5 million.
Being like, hey, this is cool. It shoots. It fires out the barrel of a gun.
We have
love
95 million more coming down the pipeline. They're not going to say no to it.
But the thing is, too, is that
wow.
the repackaging, yes, that's what fucked them in the end, right? Is that they repackage the ammo, they send emails to each other about it. The FBI has started an investigation into this company, and as soon as they get a hand of those emails or whatever, they're basically like, these guys are fucking going down. Even though the U.S. Army accepted the ammo, that didn't matter, right?
Yeah, that's why I was like, the best part is in the film when it's like the guy who puts it from wooden crates into Ziploc bags. He's like, hey man, you owe my guys $100,000. They couldn't cough up a fucking $100,000, a measly $100,000, even though they were getting a $300 million deal.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
That takes them the fuck down in the end anyway.
That guy, the guy who's depicted in the film, he went to testify in Congress about the job, right?
Straight up calls the FBI on them.
But not in real life. He doesn't.
Okay.
They call him. They figure it out and they call him. It isn't said in the article that it's like there was a payment issue between them. He was just suspicious. And then once they were arrested, he was like, okay, I'll come talk about it. I believe he goes back to Albania, and he is the one who mysteriously disappears.
Oh, not the driver.
Yeah. Sorry, he doesn't disappear. He gets in a car accident that people were like, this didn't seem like a normal car accident.
Oh.
Yeah, because like
Mr.
I
High
said,
Profile goes to America.
Diveroli, in real life, did try to cut Tomet out of the deal, and Tomet was deep in the pocket of the Prime Minister of Albania and the Prime Minister's son. That didn't endear AEY to Albania, much like the film Taken. But like,
every time this guy Ephraim, Jonah Hill's character, tries to cut someone out of a deal, he's still getting hundreds of millions.
I know.
But that level of greed is just...
It's his downfall,
for
right?
someone so reasonable and supposedly clever enough to fucking barter an arms deal between nations. Yeah. He's like a little boy who wants, but I want this special 5 million on the side too.
There is a fantastic quote. I read a review, or it wasn't a review, it was kind of a retrospective about this movie by Andrew O'Hear in Salon. And his quote about Ephraim Diveroli or about Jonah Hill's character, which I think applies to Diveroli in real life, is he's a young American indoctrinated to believe that entrepreneurial success requires vicious amorality. It's exactly what he's like, right? And his greed does get the better of both of them.
Yeah.
Packouz actually leaves at one point and starts a competitor just on his own, because he's like, dude, you taught me, you're my fucking Gandalf. You taught me all I know. I can read these contracts and I can... Unlike the film, it was even stupider in real life. It wasn't just a piece of paper that they signed. Packouz never got paid anything. He was getting paid on commission. He hadn't got paid anything yet for the Afghan deal. They never enshrined any ownership of that company. It was all Diveroli's. And then at one point, Diveroli, they get in a dispute. He wants to then cut Packouz out of the whole thing too, because Packouz was going to make about $30 million. Yeah. And Packouz was like, all right, well, I'll take this. Diveroli was like, I'll offer you a tiny little bit amount of money. And Packouz was like, fine, I'll take it. And then I'll start a competitor company. By the time that's all up and running, the FBI is like, we have your emails and this is going to be a problem. But Packouz is convinced. He kind of ends the thing as like, Diveroli gets 4 years in prison.
Yeah.
They go down for the Chinese ammo repackaging, despite the fact, again, I want to reiterate that the U.S. Army was like, no, these are great. I love these things shoot out of guns.
Yeah, of course.
But he said he was like, the whole story blew up and it shone a light on the shady procurement performance of the Pentagon under Bush. And he thinks that the Bush administration's embarrassment made them scapegoats. So they were basically just like
a couple of kids,
couple of small businessmen who got fucked by the big guy.
Shit.
Yeah, and that's basically it. And then he gets 7 months of house arrest, Pacos. Yeah,
because he he's agrees to testify against.
He just agrees to cooperate essentially. But also I found it really interesting. I can see why they made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the movie. I'm not sure if it totally works without all of. Like, I went through it in broad strokes, and I really enjoy the detail of that story, and I understand why that wouldn't make an entertaining movie, but then again, you could point to so many other counterexamples where it's like, these movies are complex and entertaining. And I wish they had done it with this one. That's all. Yeah.
I think he tried to do a Hangover take on war. It just needs to be entertaining. It doesn't need to be factual.
Yeah. And
it's effective in doing that. There's not one moment where you're bored watching it or you look away because something might fucking happen.
No. What I said was like, it's like a weird mashup of like Lord of War, The Social Network, and The Big Short. And it's kind of, I think, inspired in different parts by all of those movies. But like, I like this movie. But when I was reading the article yesterday, I was like, I mean, this is so much more interesting.
Like, you wish it had more? It did more?
I wish it wasn't struggling between comedy and drama, and it was just like, let's just tell this as like a straight story.
This is what I was telling you when watching this movie made me feel like eating empty calories.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I got a fucking bowl full of popcorn, butter on it, great. But I also wish it had beef. You know what I mean? Like, I want some protein in my popcorn. I want some vegetables.
Popcorn and shredded beef is the new thing. Yeah,
I'm happy with the butter popcorn, but if it had caramel in it,
oh man,
shit, bitch.
Imagine, you know what they should do? They should just put a full hamburger right in the fucking popcorn bucket. Surprise!
You're goofing, but I'm a visionary. One day this will be a good day for us.
Just stick your hand in the popcorn. Oh my god, there's a hamburger in here.
You know what movie needs any more character development when you have Ana de Armas in there? They're like, it's just dudes and bullets. We need something for the ladies.
We need a little feminine energy in this film.
And so Ana de Armas is Pacos' wife. She plays Miles Teller's wife.
Yeah.
Who is very anti-war, right? She's like, I can't.
Yeah, those little details are stuff they definitely added more. They sprinkled more.
That's all movie
throughout.
shit.
Yeah. Which is like interesting. I think Ana de Armas is totally fine in this movie.
Yeah.
I honestly think, and I know you're less of a fan of him than I am, Miles Teller. I like Miles Teller generally.
I like Miles Teller.
However, in this film, he could almost be any other actor.
Honestly,
it's unfortunate he doesn't really distinguish himself enough. And this is when Miles Teller is like big. And originally it was supposed to be Jesse Eisenberg and Shia LaBeouf, which is, that would be too methy.
I get it because you're not, they want to make this guy likable. Kind of. Compared to Ephraim Jonah Hill's
I think he is too in reality.
I find it hard to believe that Miles Teller is a nice guy. He plays like a little cocky shithead.
A dirtbag. Yeah.
Like a dirtbag, like arrogant fucking everything he's done. So that is his character now in my, just limited viewing of Miles Teller.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine him as the leading man, almost hero, compared to a Jesse or a fucking Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Shia could have also done Jonah Hill's character. That's how much fucking range that crazy guy has.
I'm sure that was what the layout of the characters was. Yes.
I see what you mean. Oh, Shia and Jesse?
Yeah.
Instead of Jonah Hill and Miles? Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the original cast that I read on Wikipedia.
Oh shit. See, that would have been a totally different tone.
I mean, yeah, it would have been a very mannered performance. I think.
It would be less comedy.
They're like Jesse Eisenberg and Culkin or whatever in that movie coming up, A Royal Pain, which is apparently really good. But that movie looks like just like
hard.
Like Rooney Mara says, like fucking watching a Stairmaster or whatever, dating a Stairmaster. Like it is. Those two have such an interesting energy, but they kind of have a similar energy, and I think Shia too can bring that. The way Jesse Eisenberg does, and it's like, which one of you is going to be calm? Then you have Jonah Hill. Like, Jonah Hill and Miles Teller are much more believable as like complete fucking potheads. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. That is true. Look, Jonah Hill in a movie, nothing can go wrong in it. Like,
I think he's great.
he's so fucking good. I've always maintained he should get all the Oscars anytime his movie comes out. Him specifically should get one just for his performance.
I think, I often think, regardless of what he's doing, they should just give him best visual effects, best director,
best dog,
best adapted and original screenplay,
best got that dog in him,
best original song. I think he should get all of those.
Look, Jonah Hill, no bullshit, deserves so much more than he gets fucking credit for. He is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And any role that he takes on, it's hard to separate because he does play a douchebag so often. It's rare to see him. What's a movie where he plays a nice guy? I can't think of one.
Moneyball.
Is he? Even in that, he's mean to people, no?
Not really, no.
Oh, shit.
This is the end. He's really nice to Jay Baruchel.
Quintessential. Hey, man, sick references.
Yeah.
No, he's such a dick.
So nice
It's
to Jay
fantastic.
Baruchel in that movie.
But
he is you.
Do you even remember how hysterical his fucking laughter is in
it's
this
amazing.
movie?
Yeah, he's great. He is the best part of the film.
Yeah.
Whenever you bring this up about Jonah Hill, and we've talked about him many times off the podcast, you talk about it like there's lots of people who disagree with you.
I think they do.
I think most people are
think
Jonah Hill is a great actor.
Yeah, but I think he's a joker. People think that he's oh yeah, funny guy, funny fucking chubby guy, Jonah Hill.
Well, he is that though.
Yeah, but he's so good at being serious.
It doesn't help that he's in the funniest film of all time, 21 Jump Street.
Hey, Superbad is up there. That is true though, 21 Jump Street.
Street.
I'm talking about his days when he was chubby, and that was all he was. Well,
he's
known
done
for.
a lot of. He's fluctuated in his weight, but yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with you. I think he's a great actor. I think he will win an Academy Award at some point. I think he was well deserving of it for Wolf of Wall Street.
Definitely.
I don't know. He's
which a lot of
fantastic.
people called this one a poor man's Wolf of Wall Street, right?
It has a lot of that.
It's got that
aspect
energy
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I've been working on some impressions.
Oh boy, I'm gonna cut that one out.
There's 10 more minutes of this. No, it's not. It's not. But the right to bear arms, it should have come up somewhere.
Yeah, that's a Jonah Hill-esque.
You're welcome, Jonah. Call me anytime.
I'll be thinking of that joke for a while.
Call me anytime. I got one more.
Go on. You got more impressions?
I got one where if South Park does a War Dogs episode.
They probably already have.
I'm sure, right? They gotta. But Butters.
Jesus
Butters
Christ.
shows up to the army contract and he's like, "Oh, gee, fellas. War sure as heck."
Those are pretty good Butters.
It was
Yeah,
good
that was actually
Butters,
pretty good. Yeah.
"Oh, gee. Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
Fellas."
Do you like this movie? Do you have anything
I
to say
fucking
about
love
it?
this movie.
Yeah, you
So,
love it, right?
I do. I want to say that every time I watch any war-related film,
Yeah.
which is done in a vein that Lord of War is done, where it is about the mechanics of it and not really the...
Yeah.
I see what you mean about wanting more kind of substance out of this film, more about the process, more about the bureaucracy of it.
Yeah.
Where Lord of War did condense all of that shit in their opening montage.
Kind of.
The bullet passing, how it's made, and the shell and the gunpowder, all of that straight into going into a child soldier's forehead.
Yeah.
They show you that journey, and then you don't need to know anything about it.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe a small 30 seconds of how do we do it would have been enough to
Well, I think the main difference between this movie and Lord of War is pretty open about being yeah, how do we do this? Crime, lots of crime on top of one crime on top of another, fraud, identity theft, all these kinds of things that do it. This movie is more like committing crime within a system that kind of is tacitly allowing you to.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that the thing with, it's the US is we don't buy stuff from China. Are you kidding me? Have you heard of Tiananmen Square? It's awful. But if someone else bought them and we bought them from them, that wouldn't be a problem with us. You know what I mean? That stuff is so...
Exactly.
The hypocrisy of taking such a firm stance on Russia, but then accepting the Chinese weapons and things like that. I think that stuff is really interesting. And it's hit on in this film, but it's not hammered on. I wish it was hammered on a little.
But what's like a redeeming part of this film is its time limit. The fact that it's under 90? I don't even remember. It was so fast.
It's under 2. Yeah.
It's so quick.
Oh, it's good, yeah.
It's like blink and miss for most of the shit. And for whatever you're watching, you're always like, there's constant pace. Like there's good action. I don't know. I didn't walk away feeling like, oh, I learned to fuck ton. Like, oh my God, not only was that fun, but also exciting.
I want to learn.
Totally.
Man.
So I see what you mean by like not walking away fulfilled like you would have if you saw Big Short or one of the others. But
yeah.
But I don't think it meant to be serious.
Oh no. But I think that's the Todd Phillips of it all, right? Like I wonder in the hands of a different filmmaker, and I have nothing against Todd Phillips at all. I know I called him the Scott Cooper of comedy, but I don't know if I really believe that, because the thing is, I like Scott Cooper a lot too.
Scott Cooper's your guy.
I like him. Yeah. He's like the best filmmaker who's never made a truly great film.
Honestly,
this kind of thing. And I think like Todd Phillips is similar, I guess, unless you could argue that The Hangover was a great film. But like the Todd Phillips effect of it all is like, it's cool that he's doing something different than like the straight comedy, you know? And that he's bridging the gap between the Hangover films, which is wild to say, like the Hangover films, and then Best Picture like nominee Joker.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But obviously he's like, Todd Phillips is such a capable filmmaker and a good director. But I wonder, did he feel handcuffed to make this a comedy because he's a comedy guy, you know? Because he's a funny dude?
Did you want maybe an Ocean's 11-y take on War Dogs?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, but speaking of Soderbergh, like something like Traffic is like a good an analog to a film like this. Yeah. But Traffic is very serious. Yes. Like Traffic is not funny.
No, not even a little bit.
Not even, yeah. No. Unless if you think that just because it has Topher Grace in it, it's funny, it's not. It's about fucking crystal meth and shit. It's
enraging. Just to see his face
cocaine.
Alone.
Yeah. He's great in that movie.
He fucking rules.
Yeah.
Fucking Topher Grace.
But just so you know, Traffic's... I know people are confused. Traffic's not a comedy. It's a very serious movie about drugs.
Am I getting there already?
Why am I stuck here?
I'm stuck in it.
That's my impression of Benicio del Toro in that film. Yeah. Anyway, but this is like, it's my own. That's my own personal taste, and it's not. I don't think it's necessarily enough. Like interesting to be like, I wish this film was completely different. It would be better. It's like fuck it. It's the movie that I got. But yeah. But I just like I stress like. I really, if you were like me and you were like, I wish this film was more about Excel and less about fucking
that makes sense,
goofy
though.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
Read the story in Rolling Stone.
That's fucking wild. That this is a reality that we lived in during the Bush administration.
That's exactly what I think is kind of the failure of this film, is that it is wild, and you leave the film being like, wasn't Jonah Hill's laugh hilarious? Like, that's it. You don't really digest, even though I truly think the ending scene is a fantastic ending. If you don't remember, Bradley Cooper apologizes to Paco as he's like, oh, I'm sorry I attacked you in Romania. Or Albania, excuse me. Albania that's the terrible country they're from that they go to. Just want to make it clear to the people of Albania, that's the one they're talking about. We would never tar Romania with that brush, even though it was filmed in Romania, whatever. But and then he says, he's like, do you know what happened to my driver who disappeared? And he brings out a case full of money. He just looks at him and says, no more questions. I really love it. I love that ending. I think but it doesn't quite bring the gravity of, say, The Big Short, for example, which has
what do you think that ending implies?
Well, I love the fact that you don't know that he took the money.
Oh, I see. I just mean Bradley Cooper's intentions of being like, no more questions, and then he gives him a suitcase full of cash.
I think what the ending is supposed to imply is that you've always been playing out of your league. Bradley Cooper's character is basically, he's half a criminal. He's basically like one false step in the United States and I could be locked up for life, right?
Yeah.
And I think what happens at the end is that you could imagine from Bradley Cooper's perspective that it's like Miles Teller is coming here and he could be wearing a wire. He could be trying to catch me in something criminal.
Right.
And Bradley Cooper doesn't say anything about the money. He doesn't answer his question. He just says no more questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's basically being like, he's like, you've always been playing out of your league. I am the game.
Yeah.
Not the rapper, the game.
Oh, shit.
And I know what the fuck I'm doing and you don't. And I have enough money to show you that you don't, basically.
I think he killed the taxi driver.
I don't know.
I think Bradley Cooper is stone cold. Steve.
Well,
Cooper.
we've both seen A Star Is Born, and that he is stone cold. You talk like this. No more questions.
No more questions.
Turn it into a fucking wind farm.
Oh, heck, fellas.
Is that Bradley Cooper?
He's back.
No, wait, that was Lady Gaga, right?
That's Butters Cooper's. He's back at it.
Anyway, this is a good movie.
It was a great
I hope
film.
everyone enjoys Totally Normal Film that's coming out. Joker, Folie, Deux. I'm going to go see it in theaters. You don't want to see
comedy.
it, right?
I'm going to pass on this one.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
You want to go see Beetlejuice. And I don't.
Because I want popcorn with beef in
With a
it.
hamburger in it.
Beef popcorn, please.
Could you make the popcorn between two succulent buns with a beef patty?
I would like a medium
and
rare popcorn.
Hold the popcorn, please.
Yes.
And then melt cheese on it and put it in a bag.
Yeah.
They'd be
See,
like, of
now
course,
the vision.
That's
It's-
$29.
A deal.
Canadian. All right. Thank you for listening.
I'm Pre.
I'm John. Thank you for your impressions of Butters and of Anna de Armas. That was
Oh, gee, don't mention it, fellas.
great. Yeah, pretty good. All right. Bye.
War.
Got that dog in you.